Not at all, not at all, SK, and that's the reality, is that I think the power of taking the viewer behind the scenes to actually see what is being done, because, you know, we keep on saying there's no rain and the dams are dry and what are we going to do and all of those kind of things, but it's nice to see one of the solutions that have been put in place, and there are numerous solutions like this around the municipality and in the province that's trying to alleviate the situation, and it's wonderful. I have to tell you, I've enjoyed it thoroughly, doing especially that walkabout to understand it better, because just like you and I watching this, I'm no water engineer and I certainly don't know what goes into all of these things, but it was fascinating to see that. But the reality is that this drought has been going on for 5 years now, and it's getting harder and worse and worse. And the municipalities that are being affected, it's detrimental to communities that have no water. And when you start getting to a point where you're actually sharing water, where they just switch off taps and randomly have one working, that you're having to go and fetch water or get waters from trucks, and businesses. I mean, businesses, this is a huge impact on businesses, and all businesses have had to account for water, to have their own form of water supply that they can keep their businesses going. But what's actually quite heartwarming about how businesses have come to the party on this is that they're trying to find solutions, and they're trying to help in areas where perhaps government are failing them. And that's what I really want to speak to our next guest about when we talk about how government, A, are being affected, and B, what they're doing to help the situation. And joining us to discuss this is Denise van Heestien, who is the Business Chamber CEO. So Denise, great to have you, and fabulous spot we found to do this broadcast today, haven't we?
Absolutely. Good morning, and thanks for having me here.
So seeing something like this coming up, we've been hearing about it, we've been talking about, you know, the solutions that the government and municipality are putting in place, but actually seeing it like this, I imagine for business this is a good thing, to see something is being done.
It's a step in the right direction. It's obviously a very serious issue for business not having water. We need the basics to work. We need water, power, sanitation, and so on. But we've also realized as a business community, we understand what the situation is in South Africa, in municipalities, and also coupled with this water crisis, that we need to take a more action-orientated and activist approach to helping to solve these problems.
Yeah. So talk to me about some of the things that you're doing, and also let's talk as well to some of the big businesses that actually operate here in this area.
Yeah, so we have a lot of major companies operating here. We've got the auto industry is huge. We also have pharmaceuticals and beverages. And as organized businesses, we've all been grouping together. The spirit of collaboration has been amazing. We've undertaken interventions like Adopt a Leak, where we actually went out and we fixed leaks in 7 impoverished areas, saving the metro 1.6 million litres of water a day through that specific intervention. We've also gone out to schools, because 10% of total water losses happen at schools, and we've been fixing leaks there and also improving hygiene and sanitation conditions at schools. So there's 77 schools adopted by the businesses to do that.
That's fantastic. It's a great initiative. But in terms of getting operations going, I mean, first, you've got load shedding to deal with, which is a major issue, and I imagine particularly when this is industry. Without electricity, there's not much you can do. And then to add to the pressure, it's the water situation. How are businesses dealing with all of this?
Look, it's very, very tough out there. We're mostly an industrial city, a lot of big manufacturers that are based here, and not having power, for example, is absolutely a crisis for business, because you need to manufacture. So we've all been working together on innovative solutions around power and water to try and keep operations running, because at the end of the day, a lot of these companies are internationally owned, and their investors, when they look at South Africa, they're looking for the basics to work. So that's why we've decided as a business community, we also need to play our part and get actively involved, so that we can ensure that we retain investment and jobs here.
I mean, when you look at the circumstances, you go from COVID into opening up, businesses weren't allowed to operate. Then, of course, you move into stage 6 load shedding that has the country gripped, and that's another issue. Then, of course, it's the water restrictions. Then, of course, we're looking at the war in the Ukraine, and we're looking at the price of diesel and petrol and restrictions and the ports. And then, of course, on top of that is the rioting. And then, of course, we have shutdown of a national shutdown in the country, which, you know, we saw that unfolding on Monday as well. What does this do to the psyche of businesses? And particularly the international players, because these are all international players we're talking about right now. Obviously local guys as well. I'm not eliminating them because they are probably the ones that suffer the most. But internationally, what does that do for the reputation of the country?
Look, it affects business confidence. That's the first thing that takes a dent. But what we've been doing as well, because we've been meeting with some of the international companies and their owners that have come out to South Africa because they're concerned about the state of the environment. And I think where they do take encouragement is the fact that we solutions orientated, and as a business community we can actually collaborate with the municipality, with Eskom, with Transnet, with all the different stakeholders. Instead of pointing fingers, our approach is rather to work with them and to focus on what we can influence and control. And the faster we can move and the more momentum we can get behind this, and if we have the support of everyone, then we're hoping we'll be able to save as much investment and jobs as possible. But I don't think we'll be able to save everything, because a lot of those multinationals are making decisions now for future investment cycles, and those decisions need to be made now, and it's not the best environment to do that in.
Yeah. We talk big business. This is my final question to you. What about small businesses? Because we know that small businesses around the country are closing down. They people that did work, they cannot afford to keep the doors open. What is it looking like here?
Look, it's very hard for small businesses. Many of them, I mean, all businesses are dependent on water, and we have seen quite a few business closures. We've done surveys among our members, so we've got big companies and a lot of small businesses that are also members, and a lot of them are taking strain and questioning their continued survival. There have been job losses, short time, they've had to adjust their operations, so no doubt I think this is probably the most difficult time ever in my living history for the country from a perspective for business to operating.
We'll leave it there. Thank you. Thanks for talking to us, giving us the real perspective of how businesses are struggling in this environment. Denise van Heesten, who is the Business Chamber CEO, just painting a picture to us. But what I know Lorato is doing is talking to the communities to find out how they are struggling. So business is one story, the communities, well, that's another story altogether. When you come back to us, we're actually going to move outside, and I want to show you how fascinating it is to see all of the wind turbines that have sprung up in this area. They've always been here, but there are so many more. That's the view I'm looking at right now as I hand you over to an ad break. And when you come back, we'll give you a glimpse into those wind turbines that have shot up in this area.